News Center Maine is partnering with the Maine-Monitor to bring you some of the reporting being done by journalists at the nonprofit independent publication. We'll be featuring one of their stories each Monday. Today, we're talking about audits. Maine's county governments are meant to receive an annual audit of their finances, but many are behind on their reports. This happened in Washington County, where the government is dealing with an $11 million shortfall, but they're not the only ones dealing with this. And here to talk about that today is Daniel O'Connor, a rural government reporter for the Maine-Monitor and the Bangor Daily News. Daniel, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So what made you decide to want to even look into the audits of counties?
So I started by reporting on Washington County, where obviously there's been a very dramatic example of what happens when you don't have audits. And we found that they were not alone. But basically, a lot of things went wrong in Washington County, but without any auditor looking at the books every year as they're supposed to, nobody noticed what was actually going wrong. So it wasn't until several years of delay that they had a county auditor look at the county's budget before someone flagged, hey, this is not adding up. Things are not matching reality. And basically they were building budgets on unaudited numbers that were not really accurate.
And as you're digging into other counties, what are you finding?
So half of Maine's counties are actually behind on their audits. They're supposed to come out every year, but that hasn't been happening for a few years now in many parts of the state. So Waldo County, Washington, and Saginaw counties, for example, are working on their 2022 audits. And Aroostook County is the most extreme case. They only recently published their 2020 audit. So a lot of the state has to catch up, and yeah, they're seeing problems as a result of it.
Do you know why it's so difficult for counties to find auditors?
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons, and things really slowed down around the start of the pandemic, like with everything. But the state auditor, Matt Dunlap, told me that that's not really the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that there just aren't enough auditors, and that frankly, not a lot of people want to be auditors. And once someone goes to find the training to become an auditor, that's expensive, and it's often better pay to leave the state or to work in the private sector as opposed to in county government, especially in rural places like Washington County.
So an interesting look at local governments and what can go wrong.
Yes.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about this.
Thank you.
And you can read the full story and much more at the-maine-monitor.org.